Well, joining me now is Dennis Michael Lynch, host of the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast and founder of Team DML. Dennis has built a huge following online, more than 2 million across social media, and you probably remember him from his years on Fox News and Newsmax, where he covered immigration, national security, and the economy. He's also produced the acclaimed They Come to America documentary series, which even found its way into NSA training materials. Today, we're diving into three big conversations: the panic over Muslim influence in American politics. Should people really be freaking out? His viral claim that liberal women are a cancer. And finally, the future direction of the Republican Party. Dennis, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Kim, thank you.
Okay, let's talk about the Muslim influence happening. You have said New York City is committing suicide with Zohran Mamdani and the end of NYPD as we know it. So you are upset Mamdani has won. Let's talk about this, because I think that this panic that, yourself and many others, or however you want to frame it, whether it be panic or alarm or, sounding the alarm of some sort. I think that I don't think it's warranted. I don't think that this is. I think you guys are making a mountain out of a molehill. I got to be honest, but you give me your point on this.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think you can't just look at this as a whole. I think you have to dissect it because there's multiple different angles to the concerns. You use the word panic at first when you said it. I was like, oh, but then you know what? There's a panic over it. And I think it's rightfully so. So you tell me which part you want to discuss first. You want to talk about the socialism aspect? You want to talk about the Islam influence? Which one do you want to hit first?
Let's stick to the Islam influence.
Okay.
I mean, what is the big deal? Islam is a giant religion.
Yeah.
It's the fastest growing in the world, I think, right now, for maybe a variety of factors. It's not the largest religion. I think Christianity is still perhaps the largest religion. But I think
correct.
Islam is, it's right up there, certainly. Islam is larger than Judaism, for example, and we got a ton of Jewish leaders. So why not some Muslim ones? I mean, we've got Christian leaders, we have Jewish leaders, we have Buddhist leaders in some parts of the country. I mean, what's the big deal if some of them are Muslim?
Well, the biggest deal is because when you look at the United States of America, we have a separation of church and state. And in the religion of Islam, that really isn't the case. I mean, Iran would be a perfect example for you. But, you talked about, you said that I had said that it was like committing suicide. It was actually a podcast I did with Rudy Giuliani. And I asked him, how do you feel about Mamdani taking down the counterterrorism part of the NYPD? And he said it's suicide. Now, he would know better than you and I because he had to deal with that every single day as mayor. And a good friend of mine is the late Bernie Kerik, who was the NYPD police commissioner. And I was good friends with him, and he used to tell me all the time, he says, Dennis, there is not a day that goes by when we do not have some form of terrorism attacking our servers or threatening our lives. He goes, I'm dealing with this all day long, every single day. So, when you talk about there being leaders who are Catholics, who are Christians, who are Jews, I think the big difference between the Jewish and the Islamic leader is that I've never heard a Jewish leader coming into the United States, being Congress, senator, mayor, whatever, saying that they're going to fundamentally transform everything. We're going to take it over. We're going to change this. It sucks. But we hear that every single time from Ilhan Omar. We hear it every single time from Mamdani, that everything is so freaking bad. Everything's so bad. Well, why did you come here to begin with? And so if it's why is it that there has to be a level of submission? Why can't it just be that, we're all going to get along? And that's never the feeling from any of the people that I hear speaking on that side of the aisle.
Have you ever taken a look at the nutrition label on any typical bag of chips? You're going to find a chemical cocktail of seed oils, MSG, artificial dyes, vague, natural flavors, and ingredients that sound more like a science experiment than a snack. Well, masa is part of the growing movement to bring back real food, the kind our grandparents ate before snacks were made in labs. Masa's chips contain just 3 ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, I didn't say that right, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. That is it. No seed oils, no mystery chemicals, just real food. These chips don't only avoid all the bad stuff, they taste incredible too. I've been eating them all day. I'm not going to lie. Snacking on masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. With masa, you feel satisfied, light, and energetic with no crash, bloat, or gross, sluggish feeling afterwards. I can attest to that. And because these chips are made with real food, they are more satiating. So you won't find yourself uncontrollably binging and still feeling hungry afterwards. You might uncontrollably binge because they do taste so great. Personally, my favorite flavor, get this, they make churro flavored chips. Yeah, I can't stop eating them. Churro, like the sweet and amazing churro. They put that all over a chip. It's the most amazing thing. And I love the fact that I know I'm not eating seed oils and all that other junk. So I order these all the time. I keep them on hand, but they never last long. So that's why I have to keep ordering them all the time. I'm telling you, they really, really are great. Also, if you love masa, then you're going to love their Vandy chips. They're called Vandy Crisps, excuse me. Vandy, which is Masa's sister company, they make the most delicious 3-ingredient potato chips. So that includes no seed oil, only beef tallow. My favorite flavor there is smokehouse barbecue. So I got the churro chips, I got the barbecue chips, I'm ready. And they're all beef tallow. It's awesome. If you're ready to give Masa or Vandy a try, use code Iverson for 25% off your first order at masachips.com or go to vandycrisps.com. Both of them are excellent. Simply click the link in the video description or scan the QR code to claim this delicious offer. Or if you don't want to order online and you've got a Sprouts nearby you, a Sprouts grocery store, they're available there. So I often pick them up there or I order them. I'm kind of lazy. I order my stuff online, but these chips really are great. So, and again, you're not going to feel like, oh, I'm just putting a bunch of junk in. I mean, chips are a snack. But these are a snack you can feel good about because you're not putting all that other crap in your body. Get the churro ones. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. But you will eat them all in one sitting. So make sure you get enough bags. Like, don't think one bag's going to last you like a week. It won't. Masachips.com, vandycrisp.com. Use code Iverson. Get that 25% off. So what do you think? I mean, what do you think they're going to do? I mean, what do you think is the future that is causing? Where do you see it going?
Okay. And I appreciate the very candid question. When I was making my films, They Come to America, I made 4 of them. The 4th one is on Amazon Prime. And not an easy thing to do to get into Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. And the reason why my films have always been very successful and widely used, whether they're used to stop amnesty bills in Congress or whatever, is because they take a real look. It's not like you and I right now just being talking heads. I have actually taken my cameras into the areas where some people will not go. And one of those places is Dearborn, Michigan. Now, Kim, I am telling you, I would bet all the money in my pocket that if I were to blindfold you and give you, let's say, a Xanax and say, you know what, we're gonna wake you up in a couple of hours, Kim. And I flew to Dearborn, but you didn't know that. And I unblindfolded you and stuck you in the middle of some of the streets there. And I said, okay, now open up your eyes and take a 360 and tell me where we are in the world. You would pick Syria, Yemen, Iraq. You would not say that you were in Michigan. And so
why
what
do you think
has happened?
Why? But why?
The visuals, for one. First of all, you will not find, I have it on camera. You will not find an American flag anywhere. That's number one. Number two, the women are going to be mostly full burqa. If not full burqa, the only thing maybe you'll see is a bit of their face. Every single sign, nearly every single sign to every single store is written in Arabic. I mean, the entire place, the calls to prayer during the day, the mosques, the size of Home Depots, they're everywhere. And so when you speak to the residents who live there, and I got a tour from a gentleman who lived there and he was moving, he said they've basically pushed everybody out because their culture is fundamentally different than our culture. So it's not that there is this big, huge problem with Islam itself when you look at the peaceful people who practice Islam. Unfortunately, that religion and many parts of the Quran have a lot of violence tied to it. It's just a different culture. And in the same way that if you liked hip hop and I like classical, if I've got to ride in your car for 12 hours straight from Idaho to Florida and you're going to play hip hop the whole time, I'm just not going to feel comfortable. I'm not going to want to be in that environment. Okay. So to that degree, I think what people are feeling like in America, if you want to call it a panic or a level of discomfort, is that we see our culture being taken over by people who will sit there and wave the Somali flag over the American flag, who will come into this country. And then when they get here, the first thing they do is complain about the premise of the country itself. I always hear Ilhan Omar and Ma'am Danny and everybody telling me that there's such a problem. Well, if there's such a problem, in the same way I wouldn't drive in the car with you, Kim, for 12 hours, don't come. Go home. We like it the way it is. It's not perfect, but we're still the greatest country in the world. And I've never seen anybody or anything be able to prove that different.
I don't think that, I think part of the American way, though, is the fact that we can criticize our government. We can criticize the way things are. And I don't know if I would say, oh, just because you weren't born in this country doesn't give you that right. You've come here, you've naturalized, you become a citizen. And so now suddenly you don't have the right to criticize. I mean, I'm hearing people all the time, like Republicans constantly ad nauseum, like complaining about New York before Mamdani was ever elected. Under Cuomo's watch, under Eric Adams, under anybody and everybody, it was a liberal shit show. That's what New York is. It's terrible. It's failed. You hear this about California. You hear this about New York. You hear this about practically every state in the union from another American will have a criticism about how things are run, how awful it is. It's terrible. Like, so why can't somebody else criticize in the same way just because they weren't born here? I mean, that's part of the foundation of the American way, is the ability to do that. And a lot of these people left countries where they cannot do that. And now they come here and they're able to do that. And they want to have the freedom to do that, just like every single other person who complains about the country.
I'm not complaining about their complaining. Look, I voted for President Trump 3 times. And if you asked me how I feel about some of the things that he does, I'm going to complain. I'll give you an example. All right. I want mandatory E-Verify to be implemented in this country. I want to be able to remove. What's mandatory E-Verify?
Yeah.
So the E-Verify system in the United States is a government-ran program that if Kim wanted to come work for me at Team DML, I will have your social security number and I will run it and see whether or not you are eligible to work legally in the United States. It is one of the very few things that the government runs that's almost ironclad. And so if you give me information that says that you're 103 years old, well, then I know that you're really not eligible. You've got a fake identification. Or if I don't run it at all, you don't have to do it. So right now in the United States, E-Verify is voluntary unless you are a government contractor. If you're a government, like if you're Lockheed Martin, you have to use mandatory E-Verify. And President Trump himself, sometimes he makes arguments for me. He said that he tried using mandatory E-Verify when he built his hotel in Washington, D.C., and it upset him because he had to go through like 25 people before he could find a legal worker. So he kind of supported the value of mandatory E-Verify. So I don't like it that he doesn't tweet about it. I don't like it that he won't implement it. I don't like it that it's not part of the plan. It would solve a lot of the problems we have here with illegal workers. That said, I don't say I want to rip him out and rip somebody else in there. What I do is I debate it and I bring up the issues and I say why I don't like it. What we hear from Ilhan Omar, what we hear from Mandami is that President Trump is a Hitler, that his followers are Nazis, that everything in this system is built for the rich and that the poor don't stand a chance. And that's just not true. And so,
but I'm hearing that same exact rhetoric coming from the right now about Mamdani. He's a jihadist. He's an Islamist. Like, he's responsible. I mean, he was a kid when 9/11 happened, and yet a lot of people are trying to blame 9/11 on him. I mean, what's the difference?
Kim, I think that's I mean, with all due respect to you, I think that's a bit of a misrepresentation. I mean, so I am very vocal about how upset I am that he is in the position he is. Full disclosure, I lived 9/11, not on the television set. I ran from the building. I'm one of the people you've seen running with white soot on his head. I saw my fellow American fall, or jump is a better word, from 80 stories high. And when you're jumping from 80 stories high, because that's the lesser of 2 deaths, I just want you to imagine what that was like up there. So the problem that we have with Mamdani is that he associates with the same people who cheered when that took place. He's associating with the same people who have been held accountable for what happened that day. So when you're meeting with people who tried to take down the towers in 1993, when you're meeting with groups that have ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, it makes people in this country very uncomfortable. Trust me when I tell you, if I were able to swallow a pill and guarantee that there was no groups like CARE, and that Ilhan Omar and Mamdani and everybody else who's in here filled out their paperwork correctly, and there was no lies and there was no fraud to it whatsoever. If they want to practice their religion and they don't push it upon me and my family and force it down my throat to the end of submission, then you could do whatever you want. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care who you pray to, unless it starts to negatively impact my city, my state, my country. And I think what you're going to see, Kim, is you're going to see what happened in London happen in the United States. It is a function of time. They want to fundamentally transform what this country is.
What do you make of the new president of Syria coming to meet Trump at the White House? I mean, this guy was Al Qaeda. This guy killed Americans. I mean, he killed Americans. I mean, Mamdani was 12 when 9/11 happened, right? I mean, this guy actually killed Americans.
Am I allowed to use profanity on your show?
If you would like to.
I'm going to use it one time.
Okay.
It fucking infuriates me that President Trump is allowing this piece of garbage to our country, as much as it infuriated me 3 weeks ago when I saw Marco Rubio taking a photograph, or was it Pete Hegseth? One of them, I think it was Marco Rubio taking a photograph with him. It infuriates me. Now, some people would say that it is the president, going down the path of keeping your enemies closer than you would otherwise your friends. Well, the same could be said the other way. Maybe the president of Syria is trying to keep his enemies closer. I don't think that. Right. I don't think that man has any right in our country, and I think it's ridiculous. So, like I said, I'm a huge Trump supporter. Voted for him 3 times. Proudly so. I don't agree with everything he does, Kim, and I will vocalize it. But when I vocalize it, I don't call him a Hitler. I don't say he should be taken out. I don't say that we have to fundamentally change everything. You know, the problem with Islam, Kim, and this is proven around the world, is it blends in to the politics. And if you're really going to have a successful country, you cannot have leaders who want to put religion and politics together in the way that, let's say, the Iranians do. So when we see Mamdani buddying up with known terrorists, and when we see that he is speaking in such a way that I would consider to be anti-white and anti-Jew, I get concerned. I get concerned because I don't want New York City to turn into Dearborn. I don't want it to turn into London. I want it to be a place where people could get along. And I find it very hard. You know, if my wife comes in and every single day says that the environment she's in sucks and it's horrible, after a while, I'm going to say, well, why are you here? Maybe we should just get divorced. And I think that's what it is. I think it is the continuation of hearing time and again from these people who are coming into the country that America sucks and they want to take it over. Then you take a few of the videos, Kim, just let me finish this point. I mean, I just posted one to Facebook no more than 20 minutes before I came onto your show. Last night, after Mamdani wins, there's a group of Muslims by the hundreds, if not at least 1,000, on the loud phone saying that we are taking this over and that Islam is going to be in every single last house in this country. You know, they've taken it over. Now, I'm a Christian. I'm actually a Catholic. I would not impose that upon you, Kim, if you told me that you were a Jew or you something else. I'm not going to push on you and tell you by the end that I'm done with my term, Kim is going to wind up having a Christian household, whether she likes it or not. That's the way Islam and the Islamics carry themselves, and we don't want that.
I mean, but we already have that. You look at like Oklahoma, they recently just
Mhm.
tried to pass, a law that Bibles would be in every single classroom. Um, here in the state of Idaho I think in Idaho for a long time, they might have changed it, but
Mhm.
Utah, you couldn't even buy liquor. You couldn't buy alcohol on Sundays. I mean, there was no dancing on Sundays. There was no alcohol on Sundays. I mean, these were laws that were created because of religion. And we see
Mhm.
these laws all throughout the country that revolve really around a religious viewpoint that then control the entire population living within those boundaries based on that religious viewpoint. And that's why the law was created. That's why people want to implement it. They say because God said, and therefore it should be. I think that I don't know. Dearborn, Michigan, for example, is one of the safest cities in America. They're not bringing crime. All these Muslims are there. They're not bringing crime. It's not actually Syria or Afghanistan under the Taliban. So that means I could walk around just fine without wearing a hijab, right? There's no law against me doing whatever I want to do there or anybody doing whatever they want to do there. There just happens to be a large population of people who have a shared culture, but they share that culture and they live here in the United States probably because they like it that others don't have to do what they want them to do. I mean, to the same extent that a Christian would love it if everybody around them were also Christian, right? To that same extent, where you try to convert people, you try to get them to the way of God, to accept Jesus, all of these things. But but people still have their freedom to not. And I think, and Christians have to accept that. And some accept it better than others, right? Some are like, okay, it's fine. And others say, I don't even want to associate with you if you're not Christian. I don't want my kids to play with your kids if you're not Christian. I grew up with this in Idaho. That's extremely common in these really Republican states. So I don't know the different, I look at, for example, like if you go anywhere, if you go to Chinatown, or you go to Westminster, California, which is like Little Saigon. You go to Little Italy. I mean, you can go to all these little factions inside of the country, and yeah, it will look like a different country the minute you step in. I mean, my mom's from Vietnam. She lives in Little Saigon in California. If you were to go there, if I were to drop you in the middle of Westminster and I took off your blindfold, Dennis, you'd be like, I think I'm in Saigon. Everybody's Vietnamese. All the signs are in Vietnamese. These people are all speaking Vietnamese, and you would see the Vietnam flag, the old one, flying all over the place. I mean, but there's still, the Vietnamese community in Westminster, California, even though you're going to see these Vietnamese flags, Vietnamese signs, everyone's Vietnamese. You won't see white people. They're Buddhist. A lot of them are Buddhist. They are still proudly Americans, and they voted for Donald Trump. In fact, they're Republicans. They're solidly Republican, Trump voting a population. They did not. They escaped communism. They came here. They embraced Republicans. So but again, you go there, it's a whole different culture, Dennis. I wouldn't be able to find you a steak in Westminster, steak and potatoes. Like we're going for pho, and that's what we're going to eat. So I don't. What is the problem? And they're not Christian. I mean, some of them are, but a lot of them are Buddhist, and you'll see Buddhist temples, and you'll see that. I don't understand the issue with this unless it's is it or which is fine if you do have an issue with that because I really like consistency and argument and thinking. So maybe you have a problem with that and you would like even that to end, or is it specifically Islam?
So there's a lot to unpack there. I'd like to start with the little Saigon area that you talked to California.
Yeah.
I would probably enjoy going through that, just like I enjoy going through Little Italy in New York City. My favorite place to go to Disney in Florida. I don't know if you've ever been to Disney in Florida,
I
but there's
have many times.
okay, okay. So my favorite place. I mean, I try to do it once a year if I can. I love going to Epcot Center,
Oh yeah, it's
and
my favorite
and
too. I love it.
see, so we would be able to have a fun time. And
Yeah.
so, you walk around Epcot Center and you visit the different countries. I love that. I have no problem with that. What I've never heard is I've never heard a Vietnamese politician get up and say that they're going to fundamentally transform the United States of America. They're going to change it into something else, and they're going to force me into believing something that I don't believe in. What you're speaking about right there is somebody being proud of their culture, proud of their heritage, and saying, "Hey, America gives me the ability to express this through food or through having a little section here where everybody sort of feels comfortable and sort of tribal." And listen, do I want this country to feel like it's Saigon? No, I don't. Do I want leaders who are going to impose upon me the Saigon flag? No, not the Vietnam flag. I don't. I don't want that. What you're talking about in one case is celebrating one's culture. In the other case, what you're talking about is Islam that has just blatantly said that they want to take over the West, that they want to spread Islam and force upon this entire globe to be that of somebody who is praying to Allah. So when your first statement out of the freaking box is, hey, I'm going to come to America and we are going to change it and we are going to switch it and we're going to make it an Islam Muslim country, that's not what we want. And this country, Kim, was born on Judeo-Christian principles. This is more or less a Christian country. And if I didn't want to celebrate that and I wanted to celebrate Islam, I would either move to Dearborn or I would go and I'd move to Iraq. So, I'll challenge you this. You want me and people like me to welcome this whole new upturn in New York City to a Muslim socialist who has, as far as I'm concerned, sympathy and alliances with people who have questionable backgrounds when it comes to terrorism. Yet, if I were or you were to go over right now to Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Qatar, Iran, Iraq, and suddenly say, we're going to start practicing Christianity here. We're going to open up, the streets of Ireland here because I'm Irish. We're going to open up, a little section here for Vietnam, and let's start putting up churches. You know what they're going to do? They're going to throw you in jail, or they're going to kick you out of their country. So when Iran and Yemen and Saudi Arabia and all these different places want to start allowing us to impose our Christian beliefs and our churches and our cultures and rituals upon them, well, then maybe we'll consider it over here. But it's a one-way street. And when you look at the people of London, you look at the people there of the UK, I mean, come on, Kim, you're in the news. You had to cover this. Tommy Robinson had well over 1 million people in the streets there. The media tried lying about it and saying it was a small little protest. I mean, it went people for as far as the eye can see. And why? Because they feel like the traditions, they feel like the basis to which London was created, UK was created, is being slipped away because other cultures are coming in and trying to take that over. And our contention is, we don't hate you because you're color. We don't like what you have to say, and we don't want you want to come in here and change everything. And that's problematic. And I will stand and I will defend that every single moment of the day. It doesn't mean I hate somebody else. It means that I love what I have, and we love what we have. And this was born and this is built on being a Christian nation. We will invite immigrants in. You don't have to pray to God, but you are not going to come in and change all the rules. I mean, Kim, I'll give you 2 examples. All right. Number one is, I remember because I've been in the news business for 20 years. In New Jersey, I can't remember the exact town. A large Muslim population had come in because they were brought in through immigration and they were stuck in this one area. And so after being there for a couple of years, they went to the school district and they told the school district in New Jersey that they did not want to have the school calendar to say Christmas break anymore, that it was insulting to the Muslim students. And so therefore they pushed and they pushed and pushed and got it changed to be winter break. Now that is what is a small little tiny example of what we do not want. When I say we, I'm talking about people who don't like the idea that we've got this sort of culture change coming in. And then the second part is, how long until there is a dominant amount of Islamic people in this country that say we need to change what's on money? No more in God we trust. No more sticking your hand up and saying, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. We believe in a certain thing here in the United States. We welcome you in, but if you're going to want us to change what we do, get out.
But what you described doesn't sound secular. I mean, that sounds like a Christian nation, but we're not actually a Christian nation. Several of the founding fathers weren't Christian at all. They were deists, they were naturalists, they weren't Christians. And that's why they put this in the Constitution. That's why they made the United States of America a separation of church and state, because not all of them were Christian, and they didn't want that shoved down their throats. And so, yes, we do have, God, in God we trust. That's not going to be Islam who has a problem with that. They believe in God. It's going to be the atheists who have a problem with in God we trust, right? I mean, here in Idaho, it wasn't other religions that were trying to change what, we had a cross on a rock. We had all these things, and it was atheists that came in and said that they didn't want any of that. It wasn't the Muslims. It wasn't anybody else. It was the atheists. So I think a lot of, I can understand the Christmas break thing to winter break. I mean, I don't know. I guess I just don't have that big of an issue with it, with the difference, with it's like calling it Christmas break versus calling it winter break. I mean, but the other thing is that Muslims, they actually believe in Jesus. That's actually Jesus is actually one of their most prominent prophets. They are the ones who actually protected all of the Christian holy sites in the Middle East, because Jesus and the Mother Mary are extremely important to Muslims. Those two people don't matter at all to Jews. Jews don't care about them. I mean, Jesus is boiling in a vat of excrement or something like that, and Mother Mary, they're heretics to the Jews, but actually to the Muslims, Jesus and Mary are extremely important. I mean, Mary has an entire chapter in the Quran dedicated just to her. So, I mean, there is that shared, they're not the ones that are going to say, let's remove in God we trust, because they also believe in God. Do they believe Jesus is the Christ? No, they believe Jesus is the Messiah, though. They do believe that. So there's a lot more, I think, shared, with Christianity and Islam than not shared. And, when I'm a Catholic, I grew up Catholic also. When I go to church, I mean, those women look like honestly, when I went to the Holy Land myself, I couldn't tell the difference. Who was a Muslim, who was a Catholic, who was a Jew? Like some of the women, they're wearing all the exact same thing. They're all covered from head to toe, wearing the exact same. They're all wearing burqas, basically. And I couldn't tell, like, which religion is that? Which religion is that? I couldn't tell. So because the three are so shared in that Abrahamic tradition, they all three have coverings for women. A lot of the Jewish women in Israel are covered. Their heads are completely covered. They don't share. In my neighborhood in California, I lived in a very Orthodox neighborhood in California. The women didn't show their hair, and they were Jewish. They weren't Muslim at all. And that was all over the place. I mean, so I don't know if and LA is one of those cities, and I know there's a lot of problems with LA, and there's a lot of problems with LA, but the problems with LA are bureaucratic and it's due to the politicians, the horrible politics of LA, and it's bureaucratic. And then there's also some cultures that I would say, they, there's some cultural issues there, but it's not a religious cultural issue that's causing the problems in LA. And yet LA is a melting pot of all these different religions, all these different cultures, different languages. And I think it's still very American. When I'm there, I still see everybody's still embracing America. So I guess I just don't really feel I don't feel so, same with New York. When I lived in New York City, it was the same, so many different diversities, so many different cultures, but it's all still has a very uniquely American feel. Now, was it the same as Texas when I lived there? No, Texas is different. Idaho's different. I grew up in Idaho, lived in Texas. I've also lived in New York, lived in LA. They're all very different, but that's so uniquely American. That's the beauty of America, is the fact that we have all this. The fact that you could go to Dearborn, Michigan and feel like you've just transported into the Middle East, and you're going to eat Middle Eastern food, and you're going to be around the Muslims. You're going to hear the call of prayer. I think that's really cool that I can do that in America with all the protections of America around me. I like that. I don't fear that. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.